Hello and welcome back to another video in Compilation. Yeah. In this one, we're going to be doing all of the haunted locations that we've talked about in the past. I hope y'all enjoy. There are many types of locations that paranormal investigators will investigate, but there are three types of locations that have names that aren't as common nowadays. Sanitariums or sanatoriums are establishments for the medical treatment of people who are recovering or for those who have chronic illness. A reformatory is an institution to which youthful offenders are sent to as an alternative to prison, and a penitentiary is an older term for prison. If you learned something today, please stick around for more content, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we will be talking about the Enchanted Forest Amusement Park. Sadly, I couldn't find much about the hauntings there, so this video will be short. The Enchanted Forest is a theme park located in Turner, Oregon. The park was created by Roger Toft. He bought the original 20 acres and began construction in 1964. The Enchanted Forest Amusement Park officially opened on Sunday, August 8, 1971. Claims of cold spots and footsteps. There are tales of employees feeling a ghostly presence on attractions like the Haunted House and Challenge of Mordor ride. I hope y'all enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we are talking about what has been claimed to be the most haunted doll in the world, Robert the Doll. People walking past the Fort East Martello Museum report seeing Robert move from one side to the other. Other visitors of the museum would describe how Robert's facial expressions would change according to the conversations. People actually send Robert the Doll letters apologizing because of the things he is said to do. Robert's caretaker said Robert gets probably 1 to 3 letters a day, but they aren't typical fan letters. They are often apologies for failing to respect him. But where did this doll come from? Robert Gene Otto, or Gene as his family called him, was a young boy in the early 1900s when his family's maid gave him a strange doll to play with. Robert is a one-of-a-kind doll handmade by the Steiff Company of Germany. Standing 40 inches tall and stuffed with wood wool known as Excelsior, he is dressed in a sailor suit and once bore painted features. Gene loved his life-size doll and brought it along everywhere, even naming it Robert after himself. Otto was so close to his new friend that his parents would often hear him whispering to it. This seemed totally normal until one day they heard a deep voice answering back. Rumor has it the Ottos and their servants would often hear Gene in his room having conversations with himself in 2 entirely different voices. Furthermore, the Ottos would wake up in the middle of the night to Gene's screaming, only to find the frightened boy in bed surrounded by furniture. Gene would blame Robert for messing up the bedroom, while Robert would glare at Gene from the foot of the bed. Soon after, mutilated toys and mysterious happenings would appear in the home, only to have Gene proclaim each time that Robert did it. Though the Ottos didn't quite believe Gene, it was reported that they could hear the sound of Robert giggling around the house. Robert was eventually moved into the attic, where he remained for a number of years. Gene inherited his family's mansion after his parents died, at which time Robert the doll returned to his old bedroom. By then, Gene has been working as an artist, and local folklore insists that Gene would spend his days alone in his mansion, painting with his old friend Robert. Gene eventually married, and many tales of his wife's disdain for Robert arose. Conflicting rumors surfaced. some alleging that Jean's wife died from insanity after locking Robert in the attic. Others report that Jean died with Robert by his side. Today, Jean's residence operates as a bed and breakfast called the Artist House, and visitors can even stay in the old turret bedroom. Robert the doll now lives at the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. Robert the doll is now around 118 years old. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I will talk about the history and hauntings of the Winchester Mystery House. I am going to start with a timeline of the Winchesters. In 1837, William Wirt Winchester was born. Sarah Lockwood Pardee was born in 1839. They got married in 1862, and their only child was born in 1866, but it tragically died only 5.5 weeks later from marasmus. In 1873, the Winchester Rifle Model 73, was released. Oliver Winchester dies in 1880, leaving the company to his son William. But only 3 months later, William died of tuberculosis. Sarah inherited the Winchester fortune. In 1886, Sarah purchased a 2-story farmhouse near San Jose, California, and began remodeling. From 1890 to 1900 is when the small farmhouse rose into the 7-story giant. Sarah Winchester died in the mystery house in 1922. The most prevalent story is that Mrs. Winchester was being haunted by the spirit of those killed by the Winchester rifle. After her husband's death, a psychic told her to evade the spirits. She would have to move out west, buy a home, and build nonstop. So that is what she did. There are 160 rooms, 2,000 doors, 10,000 windows, 47 stairways, 47 fireplaces, 13 bedrooms, and 6 kitchens. The home also has doors and windows that lead to nothing, unusually shallow stairs, stairs that end in ceiling, interior barred windows, and trapdoors. Visitors and tour guides claim to experience cold spots, footsteps, cooking smells, odd sounds, whispering, doors and windows slamming, and feelings of being watched. The Winchester Mystery House is said to have intelligent hauntings, residual hauntings, and shadow figures. Supposedly in the grand ballroom and the basement of the estate, the wheelbarrow ghost is experienced. Shadow figures are said to be seen roaming around corners, down long hallways, and appearing in windows. Maintenance worker Denny reports that after entering the water tower one morning, he heard footsteps above. He went upstairs to tell the assumed trespasser that the building was off limits, but the footsteps always seemed to come from above him. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. This video will be a quick history of the Joliet Prison. The Joliet Prison replaced the first state penitentiary in Alton, built on a bluff overlooking the Mississippi River in 1831. The Alton Prison quickly degraded into a state of horrendous conditions. On May 22, 1858, 53 prisoners arrived to begin the construction of the rest of the prison. This included the quarrying of limestone. In 1878, the prison was overfilled with nearly 2,000 prisoners. Reports of unsanitary and dangerous conditions arose, and by 1905, calls for the closure of the prison were made. The 1926 construction of Statesville Penitentiary was intended to close Joliet, but Joliet Prison continued to house offenders until 2002. It was closed by Governor George Ryan as a budgetary measure. Among the prisoners there was Richard Speck, James Earl Ray, Babyface Nelson, and John Wayne Gacy. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to talk about Ed and Lorraine Warren and some of the cases that they worked on. Ed Warren was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut on September 7, 1926. He was a self-taught and self-professed demonologist, author, and lecturer. He died in Monroe, Connecticut on August 23, 2006. Lorraine Warren was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut on January 31, 1927. She professed to be a clairvoyant and a light trance medium. In addition to investigations, Lorraine ran the Warrens' occult museum in the back of their home. The museum displayed many haunted objects and artifacts from their investigations. She died on April 18, 2019 in Monroe, Connecticut. Ed and Lorraine Warren got married in 1945. On January 11, 1946, Lorraine gave birth to Judy Warren. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR. The Warrens claimed to have investigated over 10,000 cases during their career. I am going to go through some of their more famous cases. The Hodgson family began experiencing poltergeist activity in their Enfield home in 1977. At first, the single mother of four, Peggy, didn't believe her daughters Janet and Margaret when they told her the chest of drawers in their bedroom was moving on its own, until the chest slammed against the door, locking Peggy out of the girl's room and forcing her to run to the neighbors for help. The Hodgsons reportedly suffered all manner of strange happenings in the next 18 months, including furniture being overturned, toys being thrown, banging noises, writing on the walls, and even levitating children. Peggy eventually turned to the press for help. This case might be one of the best documented paranormal cases in history, thanks to tabloid photographer Graham Morris's disturbing photos. Among these images is a photo of Janet being tossed from her bed while Margaret watches in horror. But it's possible that the picture was staged. The Warrens were contacted in 1978 and they concluded that a demon presence inhabited the house. The Perrin family of Rhode Island claims to have been terrorized by an evil presence while living at Arnold Estate. Originally built in 1693, the home has a long history of haunting and terror. Roger and Carolyn Perrin lived there with their 5 daughters from 1971 to 1980. At first, Roger Perrin wanted to pretend the hauntings weren't real, but soon it started affecting him. Some of the house's spirits were benign and played with the kids. In fact, one of the children, April, befriended the spirit of a boy named Oliver Richardson. Some say that the entity in the Arnold house, or the Conjuring house, is Bathsheba Sherman. She was allegedly haunting generations of families that had taken residence within her remote grounds. She is also said to be a witch, but Bathsheba was just a neighbor. The entity tormenting that family had a broken neck and was likely Miss Arnold, who was found hanging in the barn in 1797. Bathsheba Sherman wasn't even born until 1812. During the Warrens' seance, Miss Perrin's chair levitated and she was thrown so hard that everyone in the room heard her head hit the floor. Also, at one point, she spoke a language that nobody could figure out. After the seance, Roger Perrin kicked out the Warrens, and they only returned once to check in on Mrs. Perrin. In 1986, Carmen and Alex Snedeker moved into a simple, white duplex rental home in Southington, Connecticut, with their 3 sons, 2 nieces, and their daughter. In the basement, they uncovered mortuary tools, leading them to realize the home was formerly a funeral parlor. Soon enough, the Snedekers were reported breeding all kinds of evil, including sexual attacks, apparitions, and abrupt, violent personality changes in the oldest son. Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the house and officially proclaimed it possessed. After flood damage forced the Smurls out of their Wilkes-Barre home, Janet and Jack Smurl, along with their young daughters and Jack's parents, moved into a Chase Street duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. They started making renovations, and at this time, the eerie activity began. Initially, the episodes were benign. Tools went missing and reappeared. Old wall stains seeped through fresh coats of paint. It escalated as kitchen appliances caught fire, though they were unplugged, and awful odors plagued the house, only to disperse moments later. Soon after what seemed to be a streak of good fortune, the Smurls were struggling to make ends meet. Jack's mother suffered a heart attack, and the ghostly visits intensified. Jack's mother and Janet proclaimed to perceive voices that sounded like one another. Ominous black masses formed and floated through the home. Janet claimed to be molested in her sleep by a malevolent force, and after that night, life in the Smurl house grew even darker. A light fixture fell and cut one of the daughters. The family dog was thrown against the wall. Janet said she was picked up by an invisible presence and tossed across the room. Jack claimed a succubus entered the living room and raped him. Even the neighbors reported hearing screams from the house when the family was out. The Smurls contacted the Warrens, and after Lorraine inspected the home, she concluded that there were four spirits. She said there was a harmless elderly woman, a young and possibly violent girl, a man that died in the home, and a demon that uses the other spirits to torment the family. In 1987, the family left their duplex. Supernatural phenomena reportedly followed them to their new home until a church-sanctioned exorcism in 1989 cleared the home. Perhaps one of the most well-known of the Warrens' cases was the Amityville haunting in 1975. The Lutz family had moved into a quaint suburban home where only a year earlier mass murderer Ronaldo DeFeo Jr. killed 6 members of his family. During the first 28 days, the Lutzes reported swarms of flies, banging noises, disturbing entities, and witnessing the levitation of family members. When the Warrens were asked to cleanse the house, they brought a local TV crew with them. They took photographs of the house, one of which seems to show a little boy standing in the shadows with glowing eyes. Lorraine has said that this case is one of the ones that haunts her the most. One of the most bizarre cases the Warrens ever investigated occurred in Essex, England. A carpenter named William Ramsay claimed to be possessed by a demon that compelled him to take the form of a werewolf. Ramsay supposedly experienced his first transformation at the age of 9. As he described it, he was playing outside when he felt an icy breeze, followed by an awful smell before he flew into a rage, uprooting a fence post. He didn't have another episode until adulthood. William would fly into violent fits of rage, displaying inhuman strength, baring his teeth, and growling while curling his hands like claws. When the Warrens caught wind of this in 1988-9, they convinced William to come to their church in Connecticut and undergo an exorcism with their specialist, Bishop Robert McKenna. Annabelle is a plain-looking Raggedy Ann doll with red yarn for hair. But this doll is anything but ordinary. The Annabelle story began in 1970 when 28-year-old nurse Donna received the doll as an early birthday present from her mother. She put the doll on her bed and began noticing it change positions. Then Donna and her roommate Angie began to find parchment paper on the floor with messages written in a children's handwriting that says, "Help me," even though the girls claimed to not have parchment paper. The doll eventually began appearing in different rooms. Lou, Angie's boyfriend, says he woke up one night totally frozen and saw the doll slowly crawl up his body, attempting to strangle him. There were deep scratch marks on his torso. The girls contacted a medium, and together they conducted a seance where they were introduced to the spirit of Annabelle Higgins. The girls have Annabelle permission to inhabit the doll, only for things to get worse. The Warrens took interest in the case and contacted the women. The Warrens came to the conclusion that the doll itself wasn't possessed, but manipulated by an inhuman presence that was looking to possess a human host. The Warrens took the doll, and Ed told his wife they should avoid the highway because it was going to be a tough trip home, and he was right. At one point, Ed had to sprinkle holy water on the doll to calm it. Once the Warrens got home, Ed put the doll on his desk. Soon, Annabelle showed the Warrens what she was really made of. She was seen levitating on several occasions and soon started moving to different rooms of their house. The Warrens called a priest, but he didn't take her seriously, and he got badly hurt in an accident on the car ride home. Annabelle is still around today in a glass case that the Warrens built to keep her from roaming the house. There is a warning on the case that reads, "Do not touch," and a cross. One museum goer who ignored the warning died in a motorcycle accident shortly after being told to leave the museum. The last case I'm going to talk about in this video is the trial of Arnie Johnson, also known as the Devil Made Me Do It case. This is the first known case in the United States in which the defense sought to prove innocence based upon the claim of demonic possession. The paranormal activity began after the Galetzes went to clean up a rental property they had just acquired. David recollected that an old man had appeared. His parents didn't believe him at first, but David told them that the old man had vowed to harm them all if they moved in. David's visions of the old man included the man appearing as a demonic beast who muttered Latin and threatened to steal his soul. Although the family heard strange noises coming from the attic, David was the only one who saw the old man. After David experienced night terrors, exhibited strange behavior, and obtained unexplained scratches and bruises, the family asked for the services of a Catholic priest. But David's visions worsened, so they called upon the Warrens. Lorraine saw a black mist materialize next to David, which she said indicates a malevolent presence. Debbie and her mother told the Warrens that they had seen David being beaten and choked by invisible hands. David started to growl, hiss, speak in otherworldly voices, and recite Bible passages. The family recounted how each night a family member would stay awake with David as he suffered spasms and convulsions. After receiving a prognosis of multiple possessions, David was subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms. David levitated, ceased breathing for a time, and even demonstrated the supernatural ability of precognition. It was at this time that Arnie Johnson convinced the demon to leave David and enter him. On February 16, 1981, Johnson called in sick from his job and joined Debbie at the kennel where she worked. Eventually, Arnie, growling like an animal, drew a blade and stabbed his landlord. Arnie was found 2 miles away from the site of the killing. The next day, Lorraine told police that Johnson was possessed during the murder. The trial took place in Connecticut's Superior Court in Danbury, beginning on October 28, 1981. Johnson's lawyer, Martin Manella, attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession, but the judge quickly rejected this. On November 24, 1981, Arnie Johnson was convicted of first-degree manslaughter, and on December 18th, 1981, Johnson was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, though he only served 5. Over the years, several films were released that were either partly or fully based on the Warrens' cases. These movies include the Amityville horror series, The Haunting in Connecticut, the Conjuring movies, and the Annabelle movies. The Warrens were always the subject of doubt. They were accused of being liars and that they were faking their cases for publicity and money. But either way, their story has brought the evils of the world into the public's eye. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know if there's any Warren cases you want me to talk about in the future, and I will see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about Zak Bagans' Haunted Museum. The Haunted Museum opened to the public in October of 2017. It consists of 33 rooms with various artifacts on display. Of these artifacts, I will talk about the Jack Kevorkian death van, Bela Lugosi's mirror, Peggy the doll, and the Demon House staircase. The death van is a 1968 Volkswagen van that belonged to Dr. Jack Kevorkian, also known as Dr. Death. He lived in the van and carried out over 130 assisted suicides. Bela Lugosi's mirror, as the name suggests, was owned by the infamous actor Bela Lugosi. The mirror is said to play with your mind, with many people claiming of a black shadow surrounding them while staring into the mirror's void. The mirror was also present in a mafia-style killing and is said to harness evil energy. Next up is Peggy the doll. A woman named Jane Harris agreed to take Peggy the doll in 2015 after someone begged her to take it because it was giving her nightmares and a mystery illness. Harris reportedly suffered from hallucinations and heard strange noises while Peggy was in her house. She didn't improve until Peggy was removed from the home. Psychics examined Peggy, attempting to understand the spirits possessing her. It is believed that the spirit of a woman born in 1946 London attached herself to Peggy. The psychics believed Peggy was restless, frustrated, and was persecuted in life. Harris uploaded a video of Peggy to YouTube, and viewers immediately reported feeling effects. Nearly 100 people say they experienced headaches and felt ill once they watched the video. One woman claimed she had a heart attack. Some comments say they felt nauseated or that the lights in their homes flickered as they watched the video. The last artifact is the Demon House staircase. The staircase is from an investigation at a home in Indiana where a family claimed that numerous members of the family had been possessed by a spirit. The local police department and even social services were convinced that the house was in some way haunted. From footsteps to full-on body possessions, the Demon House scared the Ghost Adventures crew more than anything ever before. I hope you all liked this video, and I'll see you all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to talk about Sunland Mental Hospital. Around 1952, a new series of state-of-the-art tuberculosis hospitals opened between 1952 and 1969. The, the 12 W.T. Edwards hospitals were all built throughout Florida. All the hospitals were constructed the same way. The main buildings were all long and thin, consisting of 5 floors, with a few smaller wings branching off the main building. At the time, it was thought that fresh air was the best treatment for tuberculosis, so the buildings were riddled with multiple openable windows. When a vaccine for tuberculosis was found, the W.T. Edwards hospitals were closed and fell under jurisdiction of the Florida Health Department. They were reopened as Sunland Training Centers by 1961. The main Sunland building, located in Orlando, was the only one that wasn't housed in a former W.T. Edwards hospital. The Orlando Sunland Division was a residential facility that cared for profoundly mentally and physically disabled people. The hospital faced crippling developments, mostly due to understaffing and lack of funds. The building lay vacant for years afterwards, attracting kids because of the stories of it being haunted. In June 1997, a 23-year-old man and three friends were supposedly playing hide and seek when he got injured falling down the elevator shaft. Mary Cortez, a floor aide who bathed, fed, and dressed patients from 1977 to 1979, knows how hard it was to work there. She couldn't sleep for the first 2 weeks of working there because of the things she saw. The place was so full of roaches that they got into fire alarms and set them off. Patients were bathed on hard terrazzo slabs. Visitors often heard screams and moans. They saw shadows of former patients and apparitions of young children. When a deputy went to the scene to help the man that fell down the elevator shaft, he saw a young boy, but no young boy was found. The innocent-looking playground transforms at night as ghosts of the children come out to play. Nighttime visitors have seen apparitions of children and have seen swings moving on their own. I have found 3 accounts of Sunland being horrific and haunted online. Account 1. Sunland was an insane asylum for many years, and some weird stuff happened there. I don't know much about the inside of this place, but some friends of mine went in there one night. They were members of a ghost hunting group, and they came running out of there, and they said that they heard loud screaming inside, and they felt a strong feeling of anger. They also heard a loud crash like somebody throwing a metal tray on the ground. They said it was the scariest place they had ever been to. Account 2. The hospital was closed because of the experiments that were going on there, and I read that there was a lawsuit over the patients being abused. All I know is that it's a creepy place. Before they put a fence, we went inside and it was huge. Even though there was no electricity in the building, the lights would turn themselves on and off. It has a basement with a morgue where we heard moaning sounds. I think it is haunted by mental patients who died there. The last account. When I was a freshman in college, we snuck in there, about 4 of us, to see if the stories were true. We had 3 flashlights that went dim soon after entering, and down one of the long halls there was a rush of ice-cold air like somebody had opened a freezer door, but there was no freezer. On the second floor, there was a sound like kids were bouncing a ball and laughing. We stopped and were very quiet and could still hear the sounds. We couldn't explain any of the anomalies that we experienced and we didn't stick around. I hope to see y'all next time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today I will discuss some of the first hauntings and spirits. Ghost stories can be found in ancient China, Mesoamerica, Greece, Egypt, Ireland, and Rome. A tablet made in around 1500 BCE may be the earliest known depiction of a ghost. The clay tablet is part of a guide to exorcising ghosts. The image of the tablet is only visible when viewed from above under a light. At least half the tablet is missing, but it still holds carefully detailed instructions on getting rid of ghosts. The directions call for the exorcist to make figurines of a man and a woman, prepare 2 vessels of beer, and at sunrise speak the ritual words, calling on the Mesopotamian god Shamshagu, who was responsible for bringing ghosts to the underworld. The idea was that the ghosts would be transferred to the figurine. The lemurs were shades or spirits of the restless or malignant dead in Roman religion. Lemurs may represent the wandering and vengeful spirits of those not afforded a proper burial, funeral rites, or affectionate cult by the living. Thus they are not attested by tomb or votive inscription. In the 1st century AD, the Roman author and statesman Pliny the Younger recorded one of the first notable ghost stories. He reported that the specter of an old man with a long beard and a rattling chains was haunting his house in Athens. In Greek mythology, the Pteroxopus was a presence or ghost that was blamed for frightening horses at hippodromes throughout Greece. Psyche are the diminutive winged shades of the dead in Greek mythology. In early Irish folklore, the Benanach were preternatural beings described as specters that haunted battlefields. A fetch, based in Irish folklore, is a supernatural double or an apparition of a living person. The sight of one is regarded as an omen of impending death. Banshees are female spirits in Irish folklore who herald the death of a family member with a wail, shriek, or scream. Chinese folklore features a rich variety of ghosts, monsters, and other supernatural creatures. They believe in several types of ghosts. Weird ghosts were consumed by materialism in life and can turn into any object. Messenger ghosts were litigious in life and can turn into any person. Trickster ghosts caused confusion in life and can transform into animals. Venomous ghosts were hateful in life and can transform into insects. Servant ghosts were corrupted by their desire for accomplishment in life and can transform into blinding light. Nightmare ghosts were frauds in life and can transform into pure darkness. Hungry ghosts were arrogant in life and can take on a gaseous form. Drought ghosts were consumed by carnal lust in life and can create hot, dry winds. Goblin ghosts were corrupted by desire for insight in life and are formed in the essential energy within rocks and trees. And pestilence ghosts harbored grudges in life and can cause disease and decay. Consumeb and the Ghost is an ancient Egyptian ghost story dating back to the Ramesside period. Its protagonist is a priest named Combustion, and the story revolves around his encounter with a restless ghost. In 856 AD, the first poltergeist was reported at a farmhouse in Germany. The poltergeist tormented the family by throwing stones and starting fires, among other things. In the winter of 1799, in the small town of Sullivan, Maine, began what is known as the first documented haunting in the United States. During this series of hauntings, numerous town residents claimed to have seen and heard the ghost of Nellie Butler, who had died 3 years prior. These accounts were recorded by Reverend Abraham Cummings. He collected 31 eyewitness testimonies from the town's residents. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to talk about the history of the Dybbuk box that is now owned by Zach Bagans. In June 2003, Jason Haxton won the online auction. He had first heard about the box from a colleague whose roommate listed it for sale after bizarre experiences, including hair loss and bad odors. The box's owner had put it on eBay under the title Dybbuk Haunted Jewish Wine Cabinet. They had purchased it in September of 2001 at an Oregon estate sale of a Holocaust survivor who passed away. The listing claimed that she got the cabinet while living in Spain. The box was among the things she had brought when she immigrated to America. The woman's granddaughters told the person that bought the box that her grandma always said to keep it closed. When Haxton received the box, it contained a goblet, 2 locks of hair tied with string, pennies from the 1920s, a dried rosebud, a cast iron candlestick holder, and a granite statue engraved with gilded Greek letters. Haxton didn't believe the stories associated with the box, but then started experiencing what he called a tidal wave of bad luck. He followed his rabbi's advice to put the box in a gold-lined wooden container to negate the Dybbuk that was haunting it. Haxton eventually gave the Dybbuk box to Zach Bagans so he could display it at his haunted museum. In 2018, rapper Post Malone visited the museum. Bagans decided to take the plexiglass case off and touch the box. While Zach was touching the box, Post Malone touched Zach's shoulder, which was apparently enough to give Post Malone the curse. Since then, Post Malone's private plane had to make an emergency landing because its tire blew off. 3 armed robbers targeted a home they believed to be his, and his Rolls Royce was involved in a serious accident. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time.
Hello and welcome to today's video. In this one we will quickly talk about the history of Nopeming Sanatorium. Nopeming, which roughly translates to in the forest in Ojibwe, opened in 1912 to house tuberculosis patients. As demand grew, Nopeming added more buildings. The location was chosen because at the time it was believed that airflow or fresh air could help fight tuberculosis. In 1971, the facility became a nursing home, which closed in 2002. Frank Venice Jr. bought the property in 2005 for $1 million. The plans he had for the building didn't work out as is now serving 15 years for funneling money into a Ponzi scheme. Venice donated the property to the Fidelis Foundation, which eventually passed it on to the Orison Inc. in 2009. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time.
Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video we will be talking about the town of Hollow Paw, Florida. Hollow Paw is a Creek Indian word meaning walkway. Jororo Indians inhabited what are now parts of South Orange, Lake, Polk, and Osceola counties. Jororo is said to mean people of the owl. In the 1600s, the Spanish established many mission churches across Florida, 3 of which were located in Jororo lands. The Jororo were treated poorly by the mission priests, so they destroyed the churches, killed some priests, and sent the others fleeing back to St. Augustine. It is believed that war, disease, oppression, and slavery reduced the Jororo population to virtually nothing. In the years 1911 to 1929, the Florida East Coast Railway, also known as FEC Railway, was built. The railway was owned by Henry Flagler. The railway posted some incredible freight tonnage records in lumber and produce. J.M. Griffin began a sawmill operation, J.M. Griffin Lumber Company, in 1923. He built roads and about 265 houses. Hollow Paw was a company-owned town, with employees renting houses from their employer and frequenting the factory-owned general store. The J.M. Griffin Lumber Company became the largest operation in the St. Cloud area, employing 500 people. It also featured one of the first all-electrical sawmills in the country. The mill closed in 1931 during the Great Depression. Hollow Paw also had several churches and its own post office from 1922 to 1954. Hollow Paw Airport was likely built in early 1936, as it wasn't depicted in the 1935 Orlando sectional chart. Its earliest depiction was on the 1936 official airway map of Florida. This airfield was described as an auxiliary airfield. The field was 80 acres with 2 runways. It was abandoned for unknown reasons at some point between 1943 to 1944. In 1935, a new mill owned by the Pevy Wilson Lumber Company opened. It employed over 1,000 timber, turpentine, and sawmill workers. At the town's peak, it had more than 2,000 people. With greatly depleted forests, the lumber company quit in 1951, and the FEC railway tracks were removed. After the lumber company's closing, most Hollow Paw residents left to seek employment elsewhere. During the period of October 24th, 1938 to October 31st, 1941, the Pevy Wilson Lumber Company's sales were between 80 to 90K annually.
I found 3 federal court cases against the Pevy Wilson Lumber Company, all for violating different sections of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. The first one was on May 14th, 1940. The second was on March 26, 1941. And the third was on April 15th, 1943. I was also able to find these images of a draft registration card that was filed on October 16th, 1940 by Delma Lee Pelt, who worked for the P.V. Wilson Lumber Company during the World War II period. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we will be talking about Lodestar Tower. Lodestar Tower, an international communications management, was founded by Ron Greider and Paul Landsat in West Palm Beach, Florida. In 1985, the company started to build a tower near Orlando, Florida to facilitate the move in for 2 Daytona Beach FM stations to move closer to Orlando. Doug Arbach was the actual inspiration for the tower. He worked for WFTL and Joe Amateur in Fort Lauderdale. At the time, Ron Greider worked with Doug. Doug later became general manager of an FM station in Daytona Beach. He remembered Greider's expertise in the tower business. Doug worked for the Baltimore Sun, that was the owner of the Daytona Beach station. He convinced the Sun to provide some seed money and sign a long-term contract to lease space for this proposed tower. Greider and Landsat arranged financing for the tower by using their relationship with Norman White and Bob Weiss of Metroplex Communications to convince Ametrust of Cleveland, Ohio, to provide the necessary long-term financing. Their contact at Ametrust was Chelsea Maddox. She arranged the initial cash advance of $250,000. Although the bank had agreed to finance the Orlando and Jacksonville Tower, no papers were signed. As the closing day arrived, still no paperwork. The day before closing, she told them to go to Orlando, go to the Sun Bank on closing day, show their IDs, and a cashier's check for $250,000 would be theirs. They followed her instructions, and it happened like she said it would. Groundbreaking for Lodestar Orlando was in 1986. It's a 1,749-foot multi-purpose radio TV communication structure. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. This video is about Goatman's Bridge. Old Alton Bridge, aka Goatman's Bridge, is a historic bridge that connects Denton and Copper Canyon, Texas. It was built in 1884 by the King Iron Bridge Manufacturing Company. The bridge takes its name from an abandoned community of Alton, which was the seat of Denton County between 1850 and 1856. The locals call it Goatman's Bridge because it is said to be haunted by Goatman, a half-goat, half-man figure. The legend is that a black goat farmer named Oscar Washburn, who was known as the Goatman to locals, was hanged from the bridge by the KKK. When they looked to see if he was dead, the noose was empty, so they killed his family. Locals warn that if you cross the bridge at night without lights, you will be met on the other side by Goatman. Ghostly figures and strange lights are said to appear in the surrounding woods. There are also reports of visitors being touched, grabbed, and having rocks thrown at them. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, I will be talking about the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club, originally known as the Knights of Sir Francis Dashwood, was founded by Sir Francis Dashwood in the mid-18th century. The club flourished, so Sir Francis searched for a luxurious and secluded meeting place. They used the ruins of the old Cistercian abbey at
Medenham, Sir Francis fixed up the property with the help of Nicholas Rivet. Sir Francis had the Hellfire Caves excavated from 1748 to 1754. In its heyday, the Hellfire Club did mock religious ceremonies, but the main purpose of the club was to celebrate women in wine and to give zest to the festive meeting. They plucked every luxurious idea from the ancients and enriched their own modern pleasures with the tradition of classic luxury. The club was in its dying days in the 1760s. Sir Francis decided it was time to remove all traces of incriminating evidence of the club's existence. It's believed that the estate and caves are haunted. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we will talk about the Paris catacombs. The Paris catacombs were founded in the 18th century in response to sinkholes and a surplus of dead bodies. By the late 18th century, Paris had expanded to the point where much of it was built directly above the old limestone mines, leading to unstable conditions. In December of 1785, workers began exhuming bodies from Holy Innocents Cemetery at night and carting them by torchlight to their new resting place in the city's catacombs. The Paris Municipal Ossuary, the catacomb's official name, was consecrated on April 7th, 1786. There are no headstones or markers for individuals in the catacombs. The bones of nearly 6 billion bodies were shaped into archways, tunnels, and walls. The Paris catacombs have been a tourist attraction since Napoleon Bonaparte ordered them open to the public in 1801. For some, it was a place to mourn the violence of the Revolution. Others sought thrills and entertainment on their candlelit tour. Only 1.5 kilometers of the 300 kilometers are filled with bones. The rest of the tunnels have been used from everything from mushroom farming, beer storage, and it was even served as a bomb raid shelter and meeting place for the French resistance during World War II. It's been illegal to enter the catacombs without permission since 1955. A number of visitors have reported experiencing echoing whispers and weird apparitions vanishing into thin air. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to talk about 2 locations with the name Devils in it. The first one is the Devil's Chair in Lake Helen, Casadega Cemetery. Lake Helen Casadega Cemetery is home to the Devil's Chair. It was said to have been built for an elderly visitor to use while paying respects to his deceased wife, but local lore has spawned many legends about the chair. One is that if you leave an unopened beer can on it overnight, when you return the next morning, you will find the can empty, although still sealed. I have found 2 accounts of haunted activity at this chair. Account 1. While investigating the cemetery, my group and I began hearing strange wailing from a distance that seemed to increase every time we heard it. Upon sitting in a chair, a strong gust of wind could be found that left. Upon standing up, no conversations with Satan took place. However, it did appear that someone else might have been there before us that very night. Count 2. One night, myself and a friend of mine went out there and found a way in and went to where the famed Devil's Chair is. My friend proceeded to sit down in the chair, so I took 3 pictures of him in the chair. Upon quick review, did not notice anything till I looked closer and noticed to the left of him was a face staring at him with its mouth open, as it looked as though it was not pleased. So I say this place is haunted. The second place is the Devil's Tree of Oak Hammock Park. My bad. In 1971, Sheriff's Deputy Gerard John Schaefer sexually assaulted and hanged 2 19-year-old girls from an oak tree, then buried their bodies under it. The deputy returned for more unspeakable acts over the next 5 days. In 1977, the bodies were found by some fishermen. Local legend has it that hooded devil worshippers now dance around the tree, and the ghostly screams of the girls can be heard. The restrooms are said to be haunted by the girls' ghosts. Local tales also state that the city tried to remove the tree but failed as chainsaws and axes dulled or lost power. The tree is reported to still stand along a nature trail. I found one account for this one. A couple girls and a staff member at Oakhammond Park had were having lunch, and one of the girls went to the restroom when a staff member and I heard a scream out of nowhere. I went and asked the girl in the restroom if she had screamed. She said no. So I believe that the staff member and I heard one of the girls that was murdered at the park scream. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we will be talking about the Oregon Vortex. The Oregon Vortex goes back to Native Americans. To them, it was forbidden land because their horses wouldn't go into the area. Many years before the House of Mystery was built, it was noted that unusual conditions existed there. But it wasn't well into the 20th century that they started making scientific analysis of the disturbance. The Oregon Vortex is a spherical field of force, half above ground, half below ground. You don't stand fully straight anywhere in the Oregon Vortex. Inevitably, the visitor assumes a posture that leans towards magnetic north. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time.
Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about the Enzian Theater. The area originally was inhabited by Native Americans and named after Fort Maitland, built in 1838 on the western shore of Lake Fumashelga, later Lake Maitland, during the Second Seminole War. After the war, the fort was torn down, and the area remained rural for 30 more years, until a post office was constructed for settlers in the area. This settlement came to be called Lake Maitland, or later just Maitland. Founded by Tina Tiedke and the Tiedke family in 1985, Enzian began as a repertory house offering 6 to 12 classic films each week, as well as the occasional live show. By 1989, Enzian had refocused and moved into the then risky field of showing first-run independent features. An influential family from Ohio that had established itself in Central Florida, the Tiedke family built their wealth in Toledo, Ohio before the first half of the 20th century. By running a successful grocery chain called Tiedke's, the grocery store opened in Toledo in 1849, and by the 1930s, Tiedke's was a Toledo area staple. Tiedke's was akin to a community center, going beyond just the local grocery. They became one of the first megastore groceries, rivaling today's Walmarts. They gained customer loyalty with outstanding customer service and gave discounts and donations to those in need. Although they had long sold the business to another family in the 1920s, the store retained the Tiedke's name. Tiedke's experienced a decline in the 1960s as urban decay and white flight set into the core of downtown Toledo. The Tiedke family spent much of their time in Central Florida, especially after selling their grocery chain. The Enzian Theater has a recurring ghost who only appears on special occasions. The disembodied head of a woman appears in the main theater room, starting at the north corner of the theater, then floats around the room, screaming at the top of her lungs. The head then disappears into the adjacent restaurant, Nicole St. Pierre, and continues to terrorize the guests in the same manner. The disembodied head only presents itself on moonless nights at around 1 a.m. Not much is known about the ghost or why she appears when she does. It is said that the spirit is attached to the theater because of her love for the building. Apparently, she inhabited the building long before it became the theater. Maybe she's angered by the new tenants and longs for an era that has since come to an end. Either way, late night moviegoers are continually haunted by the woman's blood-curdling screams. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one we will be talking about Arcadia Opera House. The Arcadia Opera House, built in 1906, is a museum and enormous antique shop. It houses an amazing collection of historical items, and the theater is in near original condition. Several paranormal investigations have taken place there, and the Opera House is a well-known haunted location. A 1905 fire destroyed an orphanage on the same property. The next year, the Opera House was the first building to go back up in downtown Arcadia. But legend has it, a little girl fell out of a window and died a few years later. Ghost hunters claim she still haunts the building. Supposedly, there is a woman who fell in love with the original building owner, J.J. Hurd. They had an affair, and when she finally decided to tell him it was either her or the wife, he chose the wife, and the next morning they found her hanging on the corner rafters. It is rumored that an incident occurred in the Opera House in which the noise of a crowd could be heard in the auditorium area, but no one was in the room at all. Other eerie noises have been heard at the location as well, such sounds include the laughter and footsteps of children. Locals have also spoken of an incident in which a child was heard walking into a room. The spirit was then felt, but nothing was seen. Another locally discussed incident is that of a spirit seen in the hallway of the auditorium. The hallway was described as eerily dark, with the outline of the shadow of a person seen to the left of the stage. The spirit was so dark that any light coming from the windows was blocked. The locals reported that those who were present during the incident got quite uncomfortable during the encounter. The figure of a young girl that has been seen in the second floor corner window. No one knows of the tale that surrounds the girl, though. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Welcome to another video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about Amelia Island's Palace Saloon. The Palace Saloon is the oldest bar in Florida and was the last American tavern to close during Prohibition. It survived that dry era as an ice cream parlor. Once a favorite haunt of the Carragines, the Rockefellers, and other socialites, the Palace Saloon is still operating today. Still in the original location, this watering hole's colorful history began in the late 1800s. According to local historians, the owners of the saloon were selling liquor until the very last minute before Prohibition took effect. People from neighboring states waited in long lines for their share. It's been in business since 1903, surviving Prohibition, a major fire, and even an ongoing alleged ghost haunting. The two-story building in which the bar resides was built in 1878. Josiah Prescott commissioned it to house his men's shoe store, which it did until 1903. That's when German immigrant Louis G. Hirth purchased the building and converted it into an upscale bar, complete with intricate hand-carved wooden furnishings, intended for ship captains and wealthy visitors to Ferdinand's nearby riverside docks. The Palace Saloon, as he dubbed it, did exactly as Hirth planned. The bar was referred to in its early years as the Ship Captain's Bar, in reference to its affluent clientele. In 1907, artist Roy Kennard added several detailed murals to the building's interior. He would later refurbish the murals himself, doing a round of renovations in the 1950s. When the Prohibition era came around, Hirth kept his bar open as long as legally possible before temporarily shifting to an ice cream parlor and near beer. Once the restrictions were lifted, the bar reopened for alcohol sales. The bar stayed in the Hearth family until it was purchased by a local company, Land and Williams, in the 1950s. The new owners gave the bar a slight facelift, including Kennard's refurbished murals, but left the majority of its historic features intact. In 1999, a fire charred much of the bar's interior, requiring it to close for repairs. The Ghost of Uncle Charlie. Uncle Charlie's ghost just seems to want to keep on serving those who operate his old hangout. Charlie Beresford served as a bartender at the Palace from 1906 to 1960, and in those 54 years, there were a few drinkers on Amelia Island who didn't know Charlie. Charlie's demise evidently did not mean his retirement. Uncle Charlie loved to bet patrons they couldn't toss a coin on the narrow rim of some busts placed behind the bar. Few were successful, so Charlie picked up a lot of change to add those tips. After his death, when a new bartender tried to continue the game, a cold chill pressed the man's shoulders and he called off the game. People started seeing strange human shapes at night at closing. Charlie was said to check the day's receipts. In 1999, the Palace Saloon was gutted by a fire, but Charlie's room in back was barely burnt. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one I'm going to talk about the Witch's Grave, which is in Old City Cemetery. Old City Cemetery is the oldest public cemetery in Tallahassee with an estimated 1,540 interments. There are Union soldiers buried here who fell at Civil War battles fought at Ol-Usti and at Natural Bridge. Their Confederate counterparts rest here too. So do other veterans of that war and of other wars. There are politicians and working people. There are Catholics, Jews, and Protestants, and people whose faith is not known. There are slave owners buried in Old City Cemetery. There are graves of enslaved people, free people of color, and African Americans of all stations who lived in the city after slavery times. There are elaborate grave markers and simple ones. Ones which have stood the tests of time and weather and occasional vandalism, and ones which have not. There are unmarked graves as well. All of these lie among oak and other trees, which have themselves seen more than a few decades. There are graves here, though, just as many, if not more, than the ones marked by stones and guarded by wrought iron fences. This is the area where enslaved people, free people of color, and African Americans in Reconstruction and Jim Crow times were buried. Their markers were most often made of wood and so did not survive. There are some with stones which last, however, they are not as isolated as they seem. The Witch's Grave. The grave of Elizabeth Budd Graham is somewhat of an enigma to Tallahassee residents and visitors. Rumors of her witchcraft make the grave a popular destination for anyone visiting Tallahassee's Old City Cemetery, making it the most visited grave in the whole cemetery. In 1889, the real Elizabeth Budd Graham passed away when she was only 23 years old. She left a husband, Alexander Graham, and two young children. Elizabeth was the daughter of David and Florence Wilson. She was born in 1866, married Alexander in 1887, and then died in 1889 from heart disease. Her grave is a sumptuous example of funerary architecture. It's a tall obelisk with ornate carvings surrounded by a low stone wall. The stone is gray French granite, with the vases being granite. It would have been one of the most or more expensive tombs in Tallahassee in the late 1880s, showcasing her family wealth and esteem. It also follows the popular funerary design of the 1880s, making it a great example of funerary of the Gilded Age. The rumor of Elizabeth being a witch was not begun until decades after her death. There is no extant documentation that associates Elizabeth with any witchcraft, yet the theory is that she is a double-dead white witch who bewitched a wealthy man into marrying her, and when she passed, he built this elaborate tomb to her. This is mostly from the poem on the tomb and the gravestone face direction. Believers of Elizabeth's witchery claim that Poe's poem alludes to the power via a few of the lines. The lines, "The spirit flow forever and floats on the Stygian river," are meant to imply that a witch's spirit is unable to cross the Stygian river of death and is trapped between life and death. The line, "For her the doubly dead," intimates that a witch must be killed twice, while the queenliest dead refers to a witch being queens of the dead. Most likely the inscription came from a popular poem and nothing else. The gravestone does face west, which believers of Elizabeth's tie to being a witch point out as a sign of disgrace. The claim is that all Christian burials faced east. This is untrue. Her grave does face west, but this is not a sign of ill respect. Many other tombs in the cemetery also face west, as it was quite common. The motif at the top of her obelisk denotes "no cross, no crown," which is usually a sign of good standing and respect. What really drove people to believe Bessie was a witch was the poem from Edgar Allan Poe, which supposedly makes a few references to witchcraft. Broken is the golden bowl refers to the witch's cauldron, which Bessie is broken since she has passed away. A saintly soul floats on the Stygian river refers to the river Styx, which a witch cannot cross in death. If she is a witch, then Bessie's spirit is doomed to remain in limbo in the afterlife. The queenliest dead refers to witches being the queens of dead. And finally, the doubly dead makes a nod to the fact that witches must be killed twice. Her grave attracts many fellow witches to this day. They practice rituals, cast spells, and come to Bessie to ask her spirit for help. Some say that a ghost even hangs around Bessie's grave. The spirit of a young woman has been seen sobbing in front of the gravesite. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all next time. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one I'm going to talk about Princeton Hospital, also known as Lakeside Hospital. Princeton Hospital abruptly closed its doors in July 1999, firing most of its staff of 225 people and sending 27 patients home or to other hospitals. The 37-year-old 150-bed hospital ran out of money. Princeton opened in 1962 as Mercy Hospital and was a psychiatric hospital affiliated with the Roman Catholic Church. It was sold to American Medical International Inc. of Dallas in 1981 and renamed AMI Medical Center Orlando. It was sold again a decade later to Resource Housing of America Inc. That Atlanta-based company changed the facility's name to Princeton Hospital because of its location near Princeton Park. The facility was put up for auction and sold to a company who named it Lakeside Hospital and reopened its doors as a psychiatric center. After Lakeside was purchased, some renovations and repairs had been carried out. Many speculate whether that is when the haunting began. The construction work may have awoken old spirits, and now some patients and employees have claimed to see the apparitions of a nun roaming through the hospital. Those who didn't see these apparitions have reported other experiences, such as disembodied voices emanating from empty rooms and wheelchairs that seemingly move by themselves. The psychiatric hospital is rumored to be haunted by spirits who move between empty wheelchairs or operate as ghostly nuns and doctors. A phantom patient with hollow eyes is said to stare sadly or angrily at staff members. The second and third floors are said to be particularly active. Unexplained noises, rapping, and voices have been reported, and lights have been known to come on and off by themselves on empty floors. I'm not sure if the picture is of the correct building, but I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to talk about Old Clay County Jail. Built in 1894, the Old Clay County Jail once held dozens of criminals in any of its 16 cells, featuring large drunk tank-like jail cells, standard jail cells, and even solitary confinement cells with little to no exposure to light. The jail, which closed in 1972, is now best known for its paranormal visitors. The original jail was made from wood in 1874, and by the time the courthouse was built, it was falling apart. The jail that stands today was finished in 1894, rises 2 stories, has 1 foot thick brick walls, and was designed by the Poly Jail Company. There were 16 jail cells with maximum security upstairs. The jail held men, women, juveniles, and the mentally ill. Maximum security prisoners, such as rapists and murderers, were held in the upstairs area facing south. Drunk sailors sobered up in one of 3 large cells during the weekends ashore during World War II. Other cells held 2 or 4 prisoners found guilty of prostitution, gambling, or theft. The solitary confinement for this jail was a box out back that was like a sweatbox, and some compare it to an archaic form of torture. Food was cooked early on by the jailer's wife and was mostly fresh food, but that is where comfort stopped, as the jail had no AC or heat, so prisoners were left to the elements. The Clay County Jail was used until 1973. Executions took place at the jail. At least 7 hangings were documented, and all took place on a scaffold. Abe Middleton was hanged in 1912 for the accidental murder of a man. Many think his spirit is still there since the murder was an accident. A surprising number of violent criminals, including at least 1 axe murderer, ended up in this 16-cell supposedly haunted prison. Many sheriffs served Clay County in the jail. One of them, Sheriff John P. Hall, served for 3 decades, which is a Florida record. 3 Clay County sheriffs were killed in the line of duty between the late 1800s and early 1900s. Sheriff Josh Ifus Peeler was shot and killed on May 10th, 1894, at a train station when he intervened in an argument between 2 men. Sheriff Charles Wilson was shot and killed by a suspect during an arrest attempt aboard a train on July 10th, 1906. Sheriff Theodore Cherry was shot and killed by a suspect during an interrogation on July 6, 1913. The town archivist's office is in the 1849 jail. She's heard footsteps when no one else was in the building and had dozens of EVP files on her computer, recorded by ghost hunters who've spent the night in the jail and who claim that the spirits are telling them to get out. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to talk about some of the history and hauntings of the Deering estate. Before Deering seized the place, the area had a wooden house known as the Richmond Cottage. It was a small inn manned by the Richmond family, primarily the matriarch Edith Richmond. If you came to Florida for a period of time, you stayed at the Richmonds. This place was often stayed by Henry Flagler and James Ingram. The cottage received the equivalent of TripAdvisor's plaque in 1901. In 1916, a year after Deering stayed a spell at the hotel, he pulled a Bruce Wayne and went, "I'll buy it." By 1922, Deering had leveled most of the hotel, rebuilt in its place a huge mansion and moved in until he slipped off in 2000 or 1927. While people do say they have seen Deering's ghost and some lady straight out of the Roaring Twenties, the real paranormal whammy comes from the Indian burial ground the place was built on. The Cutler Burial Ground on Charles Deering Estate is one of the few surviving prehistoric burial mounds in the Miami-Dade area. The place was once riddled with artifacts, and every time someone decides to drill a spike in or put up a new palm tree, the gardeners or construction crews would just bag the unearthed and disturbed bones and toss them out onto the coast. The spoiled son of Henry Perrine, on a wild goose chase for the lost treasure of 18th century African pirate, went gonzo with a shovel, unearthed buried natives, and then, cause reburial was such a hassle, had his manservant toss them into a sack and leave them by the side of a dirty road. And the pillaging didn't stop there. Ralph Monroe also went gopher mad in the mound in the late 1890s. By the time Deering bought the land, the 12 to 18 buried Native Americans were practically being used as scarecrows. It was said that there were too many hauntings to enumerate. The place is such a hotspot for ghostly activity that it actually has an official ghost tour sponsored by the Florida Historical Society, a ghost tour that you can book from the Miami-Dade County office. Colin Colleen Kelly, part of a team that investigates the paranormal at Deering Estate, has recorded over 60 ghost voices while walking around the mansion. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about the Maitland Art Center. The Maitland Art Center was founded as an art colony in 1937 by visionary American artist and architect Andre Smith. The Maitland Art Center, originally named the Research Studio, was built by the artist J. Andre Smith during the final years of his life from 1937 to 1959. Staff still feel the presence of Andre 58 years later, keeping an eye on the grounds and letting it be known when he is not happy. There are three types of sightings here. Sometimes people actually see Smith wandering the grounds or in one of his art studios. Other times people just feel his presence, especially artists when they are working in their studios. The third type of sighting might be more accurately described as a smelling. Smith was an avid cigar smoker, and people will sometimes say they smell cigars around the campus when no one is smoking. That is the only spirit said to be there that I could find, and he is considered to be a good spirit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see y'all next time.
Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one we will be talking about the Bell Witch haunting. The story begins in 1817 in Adams, Tennessee. John Bell, a farmer, moved his wife Lucy and their children to a modest home in the Red River area. The family was well liked and respected until the strange events began. It started with knocks on the walls, then came scratching beneath the floors and chains dragging across the floorboards. At first, the Bells thought it was animals or pranksters. They were wrong. Soon the spirit revealed a voice. It spoke out loud, mocking the family, especially John and his daughter Betsy. The entity claimed to be a witch and said her name was Kate. She cursed John Bell and swore to kill him. Visitors to the Bell home reported being slapped, scratched, or pinned down by an invisible force. Some said they heard multiple voices speaking in unison, quoting scripture and singing hymns. Word of the haunting spread. Locals gathered at the Bell home, hoping to witness it for themselves, and many did. One guest, future U.S. President Andrew Jackson, who allegedly said, I'd rather face the entire British Army than the Bell Witch again. The spirit had two main targets, John Bell, whom it hated, and Betsy Bell, whom it tormented. Betsy was just a teenager, and the witch would slap her, pull her hair, and yell in her ears at night. When she became engaged to a local man, the torment grew worse, until she eventually broke off the relationship, seemingly under pressure from the entity. John Bell's health began to fail. He suffered from mysterious seizures and would often fall into unconsciousness. Then, in December of 1820, he died. On the day of his death, a strange vial of black liquid was found near his bedside. When a drop was given to the family cat, it died instantly. The witch's voice reportedly spoke, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night," which fixed him. John Bell's death was declared supernatural in origin, a rare, possibly unique case in American history. After John's death, the spirit activity decreased. In 1821, the Bell Witch declared she would leave, but promised to return in 107 years. In 1935, some claimed the haunting resumed briefly, strange sounds, apparitions, voices, but nothing as intense as before. Today, the area is still known for strange happenings. A Bell Witch cave, near the original Bell Farm, is open to the public, and some visitors report seeing shadow figures, hearing unseen voices, and being touched by something invisible. Many believe the land remains cursed. So what was the Bell Witch? Some theories include a poltergeist, a spirit attached to emotional energy, especially that of teenage Betsy, a vengeful neighbor using ventriloquism and poison to manipulate and murder John Bell, mass hysteria, which is shared delusions created by religious fear, isolation, and stress, or something darker, like a demonic presence drawn to the land. No explanation has ever been proven, and no one has ever been able to fully debunk the claims. The Bell Witch haunting is one of America's most disturbing legends, not just for the paranormal activity, but for how real it all seems to those who lived it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Hello, and welcome to the last video of the Halloween informational videos for this year. In this one, we will be talking about some connections of art and the supernatural. The first painting is one of Charles Manson, which supposedly has his ashes in the eyes of the painting. The artist used his own blood to make the painting, and then supposedly uses Charles Manson's ashes to make the eyes. The painting now lives in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in a room with other serial killer paraphernalia, memorabilia, whatever you want to call it, really. Next is The Anguished Man. While the artist is unknown, the owner, Sean Robinson, claims that it was in fact painted with blood, and that the artist committed suicide shortly after painting it. Robinson uploaded videos of the painting to his YouTube channel in 2010. Then he reported hearing crying noises, seeing mists form, and witnessing shadowy figures. He has further stated that the painting would occasionally fall without explanation, and to have once seen the figure of a man. Robinson later uploaded short YouTube clips filmed in his home, which purported to show the painting moving slightly, doors closing, and unexplained sounds. The videos sparked an online debate, with some viewers seeing them as proof of paranormal activity, while others dismissed them as hoaxes involving wires or editing tricks. The third one is known as The Hands Resist Him. The painting was made by Bill Stoneham in 1972. It depicts a young boy and a female doll standing in front of a glass panel door, against which many hands are pressed. According to Stoneham, the boy is based on a photograph of himself at age 5. The doorway is a representation of the dividing line between the waking world and the world of fantasy and impossibilities, while the doll is a guide that will escort the boy through it. The hands represent alternate lives or possibilities.
The painting became the subject of an urban legend and viral internet meme in February of 2000 when it was posted for sale on eBay along with a description implying that it was haunted. Allegedly, in the middle of the night, the boy and the doll in the painting would fight, terrifying the couple's 4-year-old daughter. The sellers also claimed that they captured footage on motion sensing camera of the boy in the painting physically leaving the frame and stepping into the room, running away in fear. Next on the list is the Bassano vase. It is believed to be from 15th century Italy. It was reportedly crafted as a wedding gift for a young bride. However, the bride is said to have died mysteriously on the night of her wedding while clutching the vase. Her grieving family passed the vase down through generations, but it allegedly brought misfortune and death to each of its owners. By the 20th century, the vase re-emerged with claims that a note was found inside reading, "Beware, this vase brings death." Despite the warning, the vase was auctioned off to a pharmacist who reportedly died shortly after acquiring it. Subsequent owners, including doctors and archaeologists, allegedly suffered similar fates, fueling the legend of the curse. Realizing its reputation, the last known owner is said to have hidden or buried the vase to prevent further tragedies. Its current whereabouts remain unknown, adding to its mystery. Now for my favorite haunted painting, The Crying Boy, by Italian painter Giovanni Bragolin. There are numerous alternative versions, all portraits of tearful young boys or girls. In addition to being widely known, certain urban legends attribute a curse to the painting. On the 5th of September, 1985, the British tabloid newspaper The Sun reported that an Essex firefighter claimed that undamaged copies of the painting were frequently found amidst the ruins of burnt houses. By the end of November, belief in the painting's curse was widespread enough that The Sun was organizing mass bonfires of the paintings sent in by readers. Some claimed that the boy he had painted died in a fire, and now his spirit was trapped within the painting. I hope y'all liked learning a little bit about these creepy works of art, and I'll see y'all next time.